بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على رسوله الكريم وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن استنى بسنته إلى يوم الدين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته, brothers. We are going through our series of the four Abdullahs, the four famous Sahaba of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And Alhamdulillah, we have finished the biography of two of the Abdullahs. We did Abdullah ibn Abbas, the cousin of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, at the beginning, and we had a quiz about the biography of Abdullah ibn Abbas. Then later on, we had the story of the biography of Abdullah ibn Amr ibn al-As, and we had few weeks about the biography of Abdullah ibn Amr ibn al-As, but his biography was shorter, as we mentioned before, so we didn't have any quiz on that. Inshallah ta'ala, today we're starting the third Abdullah, Abdullah ibn Umar ibn al-Khattab. As you all know, the famous Umar ibn al-Khattab, his son Abdullah ibn Umar ibn al-Khattab. And inshallah ta'ala, this series, his biography has longer than the other two Abdullahs, so it will be probably a few weeks, inshallah ta'ala, and we'll go through them as we are going through the other stories of the Abdullahs and try to get some benefits, some wisdom from their life, from their point of view, from their knowledge, and how they spread the knowledge, how they love Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. From all these points, inshallah ta'ala, we'll try to benefit ourselves. So just quickly, the introduction of this series. As you all know that who are these four Abdullah. We talked about them already. We talked about Abdullah ibn Abbas. We're going to talk about today Abdullah ibn Umar ibn al-Khattab. Then also we have Abdullah ibn Amr ibn al-As, which we have finished. Then we have Abdullah ibn Zubair ibn al-Awwam. And then we also said we're going to add another Abdullah ibn Masud. Although he is not famous for these four Abdullahs, but he was a senior Sahaba, an early Muslim to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So we also, inshallah ta'ala, in due time, will talk about Abdullah ibn Masud also. And we'll go through the series this way, that we talk about their family and their background, talk about their parents, then we talk about the interaction with Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then we talk about their personal life, how they came to Islam, how they struggle, how they gathered their knowledge and spread this knowledge, and also what's their contribution to the Islam. And also we share some points on their political view of that current situation that in their time, how they deal with the Khulafa Rashidin, how they deal with the fitna in the time of fitna. And through this one, we try to get the point that how we can be benefited from their life stories. So today, as we said, we're going to start with the famous Sahaba Abdullah ibn Umar ibn al-Khattab. Abdullah ibn Umar ibn al-Khattab, he was born just after 1 or 2 years after the revelation. So when Prophet ﷺ, as all know that he became a prophet and a messenger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the age of 40, and near about the age of 40, just after 1 year of that, or maybe some narrations say 2 years, Abdullah ibn Umar ibn al-Khattab was born. But if you look at the other Sahaba that we finished, the other two Abdullahs, there's a difference between them and Abdullah ibn Umar ibn al-Khattab. The difference is, even Abdullah ibn Abbas, and as you know that he is the most knowledgeable, he's the mufassir of the Sahaba, as we mentioned that, but he also get only 3 years to spend with Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because he was in Mecca. He was born at the beginning, almost the same time. So Abdullah ibn Abbas was maybe 3 or 4 years younger than Abdullah ibn Umar ibn al-Khattab, or maybe 2 years, but he was in Mecca. His father, Al-Abbas, the uncle of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, didn't make the hijrah with Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to Medina. He came to Medina later on during the Fateh Makkah. And then Abdullah ibn Abbas had only 3 years with Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Same with Abdullah ibn Amr ibn al-As that we talked about last year, that his father, Amr ibn al-As, became Muslim just before Fateh Makkah with other two great Sahaba, Khalid bin Walid and Talha ibn Usman ibn Talha. And so he also get maybe 3.5 years with Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But Abdullah ibn Umar ibn al-Khattab, as soon as his father Umar ibn al-Khattab became Muslim, he accepted Islam, he was with Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam from that time. And as you all know, the Umar ibn al-Khattab, the day he accepted Islam, from that day, he was not sitting down. He was some figure, he was always active in pursuit of the Islam. He was trying to help Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam all the time. He was always around Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the same way, because of that, his son Abdullah ibn Umar ibn al-Khattab, he also was with Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he spent the most amount of time among all the other three Abdullahs. He is the one who spent the most amount of time with Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And this is why we'll find that how much knowledge, how much strong sunnah he had, and how much he learned from Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So he was born just before, after 1 or 2 years after the revelation. And his father Umar ibn Khattab, we're not going to talk about him too much because it needs probably a few lectures to talk about the life of Umar ibn Khattab. But very quickly, as you all know the story of Umar ibn Khattab, for the first few years he was quite opposite where the Prophet ﷺ was making his dawah. He was against Prophet ﷺ, and in one point we know the story that he was about to go and kill Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, but he heard some news that his own sister accepted Islam, so he diverted his journey to his sister's house. And when he went there, he saw that his sister and his sister's husband, both of them are learning Quran from another Sahaba. He heard some of the ayah of Surah Al-Taha, and thus he became Muslim after some talking with his sisters. Anybody remember the sister's name of Umar ibn Khattab? We talked about it probably 3-4 times. Who was the sister of Umar when he went to her house and she saw that she's learning Quran? What's her name? Fatima. Her name was Fatima. Fatima was a very common name, so her name was Fatima. And who was the husband of Fatima? He was a famous Sahaba. He was one of the 10 Ashara Mubashara. Anybody knows? No. Sa'id ibn Zayd. Sa'id ibn Zayd. He was one of the 10 who is promised paradise by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam through the revelation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Also, Sa'id ibn Zayd is also very famous. Why? Because his father was Zayd ibn Nufail. Anybody remember who Zayd ibn Nufail is? He's a very unique character. Yes.
He was doing worshipping.
Yes. So he was one of the Hunafa. As mentioned by in the Sirah of Prophet that he never had a prophet in his life. He met Prophet at a very young time. So Prophet was not a prophet at that time, but he was still following the path of the Ibrahim alayhi salam. He was always hating the worshipping of the idols. He was hating that they are burying the young girls and everything. So he was all against this. And also Prophet said that he will be a person in the day of judgment without a prophet. He is a ummah by himself, a single person. And his son Sa'id ibn Zayd asked Prophet what's going to happen with my father? And Prophet said, I had a dream that your father, Allah has given him 2 Jannah. Not 1 Jannah, Allah has given him 2 Jannah. So he was the son, Sa'id ibn Zayd was the son of Zayd ibn Nufail. Anyway, so this is how Umar ibn Khattab accepted Islam. And after the day he accepted Islam through the hands of Prophet ﷺ, he was always with him all the time, every time. And that's why Umar ibn Khattab, the son of Abdullah ibn Umar, also get in touch with the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. Now, Umar ibn Khattab, when he accepted Islam, he had 3 wives before he accepted Islam. That's what the narration, some of the narration. One of the wife was Zainab bint Mazun, and his brother, so Umar's brother-in-law, was another great Sahaba, Usman ibn Mazun. And sometime, if we have time, we'll talk about Usman ibn Mazun and how he important in the life of Prophet ﷺ. So Zainab bint Mazun was one of the 3 wives that Umar ibn Khattab had, and she's the only one who accepted Islam at the same time as Umar accepted Islam. The other 2 wives, they didn't accept Islam at that time. And we don't have much information about the mother of Abdullah ibn Umar. So Zainab, she accepted Islam. Some narrations say that she also made the hijrah with Umar ibn Khattab, and some narrations say she actually passed away very soon after she accepted Islam. So when the prosecution was going on in Makkah, so she probably passed away during that time. So not much about that one. So once they moved to Medina with Prophet ﷺ, then Abdullah ibn Umar, obviously he accepted Islam. Now some narrations say that some people used to say of Medina, some people of Medina used to say that Abdullah has accepted Islam before his father Umar. How it is possible? Because Umar was, Abdullah was very young at that time when Umar became Muslim. He was probably 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, not more than 7 years old at that time. But some people say that now Abdullah ibn Umar has a student. Actually, he was his freed slave. His name is Nafi, and you remember this name Nafi because it is very important in the Hadith sign. If you read about the Hadith of Abdullah ibn Umar, the name Nafi is very important. So he was a freed slave of Abdullah ibn Umar. So Abdullah ibn Umar was his teacher, and Nafi was the teacher of Imam Malik. So all the hadiths that you get from the Muwatta of Imam Malik, from the Maliki Mazhab, as you can say, most of the hadiths, you will see the chain. The chain is from Abdullah ibn Umar, from Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, and from Abdullah to Nafi, the free slave, the student, the famous student of Abdullah ibn Umar, and from Nafi, his student, Imam Malik. So that was the chain, and that's why this name is very important. So Nafi said that, people used to say that, Abdullah accepted Islam before Umar. But that is not the reason. The reason for that actually, because in the time of Bayatul Ridwan, if you remember what is Bayatul Ridwan, when Prophet ﷺ went to go to Makkah, and Osman was inside the Makkah, he was not coming back, and everybody was had a doubt. There is a rumor that the Quraysh has killed Osman. So Prophet ﷺ under a tree, he put his both hand, one hand for Osman, to place that they were going to go and attack the Makkah at that time, just to get the revenge of Osman ibn Affan. But at that time Abdullah was present there, and Umar was a bit far away because he was getting ready to be fight. Because Umar in that time, during that time, he was always eager to fight, with the people. So Umar was getting his armor down, but by the time Abdullah was in front of Rasulullah and he took the pledge, he went back to his father. So because he took the pledge before his father, so some people used to say that his Islam is before the Islam of Umar ibn Khattab, but that is not the case, as explained by his student Nafi, that obviously Abdullah was much younger when Umar ibn Khattab accepted the Islam. Now it was said that he had no childhood. So what does that mean? Some of the people say because Abdullah ibn Umar, he spent his whole life looking at Prophet Muhammad, he was not like other child. He never find in narration that Abdullah ibn Umar was playing with some other kids like any other kids, because he was so much in love with Prophet from the beginning. He used to spend most of his time, even as a childhood, as a 7 years, 6 years old child, he used to spend the time with Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And that's why people used to say he's not like other child, and he has no childhood. From the beginning, he is just with Prophet sallallahu, whatever they are talking, and because he is the son of Umar ibn Khattab, and as you know, in most of the in the surah, most of the council, Prophet sallallahu on the right hand side he has Abu Bakr, left hand side he has Umar, and with both of them. And if you read the hadiths where Rasulullah is talking to Umar and Abu Bakr at the same time, you will see those hadiths coming from Abdullah ibn Umar, because he's also present there with his father. And sometime it was to say that Prophet ﷺ used to ask about him. So if Umar came to in front of Rasulullah ﷺ, Rasulullah asked, "Where is your ghulam?" Although Umar has other children, but whenever Rasulullah used to ask, "Where is your ghulam? Where is your son?" he used to understand that he's talking about Abdullah. And that's why he used to go back home and he used to bring the Prophet asking about you. And he becomes so happy that he asked about me. He noticed that I'm not present. So he used to have more love for Prophet Muhammad. And that's why lot of narration says, like Prophet Muhammad, he used to call that he's the walking Quran. As we all know, the famous hadith Aisha mentioned that if you want to know Quran, look at Prophet. He's the walking Quran basically. The walking Sunnah is Abdullah ibn Umar. He loved Rasulullah so much. And his way of following Sunnah, as we're going to describe in next few weeks, you will know that he is, and people used to call, even his own student Nafi, he said, people of Medina used to call him crazy, Majnoon, because the way he used to love Prophet Muhammad and follow the footstep of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's why he is called the walking Sunnah. Now the Prophet Muhammad used to ask about him, and we mentioned about this topic already. He had double access to Prophet Muhammad. What does that mean basically? As I said, that he has, his father is Umar ibn Khattab, who is already an active figure, a very interactive figure with Prophet Muhammad, taking part in every action, in every matter that Prophet is describing. And because he is the son of Umar ibn Khattab, he always get the chance to go close to Prophet Muhammad. Another access he had because his sister, who is his sister? Hafsa, yes. Hafsa is the wife of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So in that way, he has the access to the inner house of Prophet Muhammad. Just like Abdullah ibn Abbas, when we mentioned, he had access through the wife of, which wife? Abdullah ibn Abbas has access to one of the wife of Rasulullah was, no. Who was his khala? Abdullah ibn Abbas' khala. Maimuna was the khala of Abdullah ibn Abbas, so he has access like that way. So also Abdullah ibn Abbas, which is his sister Hafsa, she had access, and that's so we have lots of narration. He said, and like especially the Sunnah prayer, as you all know that Prophet ﷺ never used to pray Sunnah, not never, most of the time he never used to pray Sunnah in the masjid. So he finished his first prayer, he used to go home and pray the Sunnah, and that's why Abdullah ibn Umar described a lot of hadith that I pray the 2 rakah before Zohar prayer with Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. And yes, there are narration that there is 2 rakah sunnah before the Zuhr prayer. And there is also narration that is 4 rakah sunnah. But this is also valid, the 2 rakah sunnah. He also said, I have prayed the 2 rakah maghrib sunnah with Prophet ﷺ in his house. So Prophet ﷺ lead the prayer in the masjid, come back home and pray 2 rakah sunnah at home. And Abdullah was beside him. So these are the narration that we go from his inner house from Abdullah ibn Umar ibn Khattab. Also, the moment of personal advice and affection, the camel story. What does it mean by that? Obviously because he is so close to Prophet ﷺ, so there were times that Prophet ﷺ give him personal advice. So there are hadiths that he mentioned, and one of the famous hadiths, just like Abdullah ibn Abbas also have some lot of advice from Prophet ﷺ, he also has a famous hadith as an advice to him, where Prophet Muhammad said, and you have heard this hadith, he said, "O Abdullah, O Ghulam, stay in this world as a traveler or as a wayfarer." So as if you are a traveler of this world, so don't be attachment with this world. And that's why we found later on in his life that he is very jahid in his life. He has no passion for this dunya at all. No property, nothing at all. He was so much into the ibadah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As Prophet ﷺ mentioned, he used to live his life as a traveler in this world. Also there is a story, interesting story about a camel, that one day he was traveling with his father in his own camel. And Prophet ﷺ was with them. But his camel, the camel of Abdullah, was a bit faster, because this was like maybe probably a younger camel, and it was going before the camel of Prophet ﷺ. So Umar ibn Khattab saw a few times, and then he became angry. He said, "Oh Abdullah, what are you doing? Don't you know that we are not allowed to go in front of Prophet ﷺ? Why every time you are going in front of him?" And when his father became a bit angry, so he felt bad, because he's scolding him in front of Rasulullah ﷺ, because he loved Rasulullah so much. So if someone do something, he feel bad inside, and he said, "Why my father is saying something bad in front of Rasulullah? He could have said me in later." So Prophet ﷺ noticed that one, and he asked Umar ibn Khattab, "Oh Umar, can I buy this camel from you?" So that camel that Abdullah was riding, obviously his not own camel, but his father's camel. So can I buy this camel from you? So Umar ibn Khattab said, "Ya Rasulullah, why you don't have to pay? It's for you. It's a gift for you." But Rasulullah insisted that no, I would like to pay for it. So he paid for it, and when he bought the camel that was Abdullah was riding, and after he bought it, he gave it as a gift to Abdullah, and he told Abdullah, take it and do whatever you like to do with this. So he made that camel to his camel. So now nobody can say this is the camel of Umar, because it's owned and gifted by Prophet Muhammad. He loved Abdullah so much that he bought it and gifted to Umar ibn Khattab. Now the battles alongside Prophet Muhammad, because when the battle of Badr happened, at that time Abdullah ibn Umar was probably 12 years old or 13 years old, but he is the son of Umar. Just like Umar, he also had a huge body structure. He was very tall, very big shoulders and everything, Abdullah ibn Umar, and he didn't look like a 13 years old. But he went to Battle of the Badr, but Prophet ﷺ said, "No, it is too early for you, so you have to go back home." Same happened in the Battle of Uhud also. He was almost 14 years old at that time. Even that, Rasulullah said, "No, this is not the time for you to take battle." As you all know that Prophet ﷺ Sunnah was at least you have to be 16, 17 years old. And he was turned down, and he was very, very sad in the day of Uhud. He said that I was feeling like I died today, because I wanted to fight alongside with Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And later on, when he saw the result, the outcome of Uhud, he felt more bad, because he said he could have taken part. Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam got injured on that battle. So all these things made him sad. So later on in the battle of Khandak, when he was almost 16 years old, or close to 16 years old, that time Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam allowed him to take part in the jihad with Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And from that on, he took part of almost all the battles beside Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now, another famous hadith about the hadith of the tree and his dream, and these two hadiths shows his humility and shyness in front of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So the hadith about the tree, one day Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam asked the Sahaba, "Do you tell me a tree that has the most iman?" So that a tree that has the most symbolized as the strongest iman. And the Sahaba couldn't answer it. Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam gave them some clue. He said, "These branches are very spread out. It has always fruits in the branches. The bottom of the tree, the root is very strong. So this tree shows the resemblance of the strong iman." So which is this tree? So nobody could answer. So later on Prophet said, "This is the palm tree. This is the palm tree, the nakhla." And when everybody is going back home, Abdullah told his father, I knew the answer. So Umar said, why didn't you answer it if you knew the answer? He said, no other, Sahaba, no other senior Sahaba was telling anything. I feel shy that, if I say as a boy, maybe everybody will be angry or something. So that shows his shyness, but Umar said, no, never do that. If Rasulullah asks something and you know the answer, you should answer him. And also, as you all know, that it was the sunnah of Prophet Muhammad, after every Fajr prayer, he used to turn around and ask the Sahaba about the dreams. That is, any of you had a dream last night? And sometimes he used to interpret this dream. Dream interpretation is also a part of, the Prophet's, the legacy, his sunnah. And some of the Sahaba also learned this from Prophet ﷺ, just like Abu Bakr, but nobody is as expert as Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, obviously. And so Abdullah ibn Umar also wanted to see a dream. He wanted his dream to be reinterpreted by Prophet ﷺ. So he was, every morning when he's praying Fajr, he's waiting that today I'm going to say something. But he's probably a young man, didn't have that much of dream at that time. So one day he went to the Masjid of Prophet ﷺ and he said, I'm going to stay tonight, I'm going to sleep at the Masjid. And if you go to Medina now, the Masjid of Nabawi, if you ask the people over there, they don't know which pillar symbolizes, where does Abdullah ibn Umar used to sit down and do his i'tikaf, they still know that pillar. So they will show you that this is the pillar where Abdullah ibn Umar used to sit down and do his i'tikaf or do his qiyamul layl or all these things. So he was there, and that night he saw a dream. Okay, but the dream was a scary one, meaning he saw in the dream the two angels came and took him to the hellfire, very close to the fire, and he was sweating, and he was saying that A'udhu Billah in the dream, that he's scared. Obviously he's taken to the hellfire. Then later on, another angel come and told Abdullah ibn Umar that that's fine, don't worry, you won't be in the fire. So as if like the angels brought him close to the fire just to show the hellfire. They didn't throw him into the fire, but another angel came and said, you should be fine, you should be saved, no problem in that. So when this dream happened, Abdullah ibn Umar, a bit more shy to say this dream, in front of everyone, he's going to talk about a dream that, angels are taking him to the hellfire, It's not a good dream for him, So, but he wanted to also get the explanation of the dream. So what he did, he went to his sister Hafsa. And he told Hafsa, my sister, can you ask Prophet ﷺ that, about this dream? You asked him that a man saw this dream. So Hafsa, radhiyallahu anha, she went to Rasulullah ﷺ and she said, a man, he saw a dream or an interpretation. So Rasulullah ﷺ already understand who saw the dream. He said, what a beautiful man is Abdullah ibn Umar, if he prays little bit more extra prayer at night. So he's praised Abdullah ibn Umar first. He said, what a beautiful person, Ni'amal Rajul, like he's a beautiful person, but it's only if he prayed a little bit more at night. And after that interpretation, Abdullah ibn Umar never ever missed his Qiyamul Layl. And his students said that some people used to sleep a part of the night and wake up and then pray Qiyamul Layl and then pray the Fajr like this. But he used to wake up few times. And every time he used to wake up and break his sleep, he used to go do wudu and pray Qiyamul Layl. So that is his style, and that is his humility and shyness that in front of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now, at the death of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, obviously you know that how Umar ibn Khattab reacted. He became crazy. He said, whoever said that Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam died, he's a munafiq. I'm gonna chop his head down. And this hadith is described by obviously Abdullah ibn Umar, and obviously he was very devastated with the death of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And he said, after this event happened, Prophet passed away, our house, the death has also came to our house. Meaning their house has always like laughter, talk about Prophet ﷺ, the learning from Rasulullah ﷺ, all the battles and everything. It was like a live thing. But when Rasulullah died, everything went bad away. And later on, we'll talk about this next week more, that how he preserved his sunnah and how he described his hadith. But just one thing to mention about the laugh of Rasulullah ﷺ to Abdullah ibn Umar. His students say, Nafi, he said, anytime Abdullah ibn Umar used to describe a hadith to their students, when he described it, he said, Qala Rasulullah sallallahu the Rasulullah said, every time he said, Qala Rasulullah sallallahu he used to cry. Every time. And he said, never ever I saw that, sometimes his beard get wet. So he started hadith, he said, Qala Rasulullah sallallahu and then he used to take some time to recollect himself. So people could see that, he's not well. So after just these two phrases that Rasulullah said, and then he stopped, he collect himself, calm himself down, then he described the hadith. And this is just because of the love. We can't, we can just say these things. We can't express the same thing because we don't understand that. Because these people, their whole childhood, imagine a child of 6, 7 years old, always with the best creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah made the best thing is Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Is the best, ever. And they are with him all the time. And in the child brain, as we all know that we have children, their brain is very sharp. And any kind of child, they pick up things. And if you spend the whole of your childhood with such a man, how much love you will have for him. And this is what it is. And this tradition of, describing, this is also went from him to his student Nafi and from Imam Malik also. And that's why some of the narration, if you read the story, the life story of Imam Malik, he used to say that, when he was to talk about any hadith, he used to go inside and put a nice dress. Just describe a hadith. He used to come and he used to say, okay, now we talk about the hadith. Because he used to have the respect and love for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And one day, Imam Malik was working with some of his students, and one student said, yeah, oh Imam, Prophet sallallahu said this. So they're talking about a hadith. And Imam Malik looked at him and said, you're talking about Rasulullah like this when you were walking? Like they're maybe going somewhere, And he said, I used to think you were a very good student. From today, you just fallen from my eyes. Because he was walking and taking, casually talking about a hadith. Imagine ourselves. We use hadith to fight with each other. We use hadith to argument with each other. Don't even care about, who are we talking about. And look at these people. So this is why I say, so many things to learn about these people. And they used to say this and used to cry for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So inshallah ta'ala next week we'll go and we'll see how he used to follow the sunnah of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his other parts of the life. Jazakallah khairan, subhanakallahumma bihamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.